roger de va, Bhaile, roger de va, Bhaile, roger de va, Bhaile.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Monday Mailbox.
That's just totally wrong. It's just like wrong. It's just wrong.
So when we have a
not true. It's just not true.
Where you send in questions and I pretend to know the answer to them. First question comes in. Would you say Jean Hu's worse than Nobushi? No. I would actually say Jean Hu's stronger because, unlike Nobushi, Jean Hu has stuff that you can't react to. Still has a lot of weaknesses, still not a great hero, but I think Jean Hu's stronger. Sorry, Nobushi. Next question comes in. I've heard talk that some people want a character that uses his fists to fight. What do you think of this idea? I think that's a terrible one. And I don't mean to step on anybody's dreams, anybody's toes. Fist fighting it can't be a thing here. We have Centurion who punches people, we have Warmonger coming in who also hits people. And those people need feats in order to do damage with their hands. And just to be clear, even with gauntlets with spikes, you're not going to be able to do enough damage. You can't hit somebody harder than a poleaxe can hit, or a flail. No one can hit harder than a flail. Even Shaolin with his stick, with his monkey staff, there's no way that you'll be able to do more damage than that with your hands. So, if they added in, he would do less damage than Shaolin. He would have to, because your hands just aren't very good weapons. Yeah, there's a lot of martial arts, but those martial arts become a lot less useful when the other person has a weapon. Hand to hand, yeah, a lot of cool things, but that's not the context of this game. And that's unfortunate, but that's how I feel about it. I feel very strongly about it. Alright, number 3 comes in. If you could change a feat from active to passive or vice versa, which ones? Number 1 has to be Rocksteady. Rocksteady cannot be a thing for very much longer. It's not skillful. There's no outsmarting you do with Rocksteady. By you playing this hero, you eliminate mix-ups from a lot of different heroes that some of them are not great heroes in general. But it's also like it doesn't. I don't want to say it's not fair because that implies that like there is a fairness to this game, but it doesn't work in the context. When it came out, it made a lot more sense because there were heroes that had big wall splat punishes but could do other things. And in the current use of the game, even though 2 heroes have it and neither of them are super great, just by them unlocking a second tier feat, which is very easy to do, you have this innate advantage over so many heroes, and there's no way around it. You can't outplay your enemy if they have Rocksteady, and you need those big punishes in order to beat them. So I think that should be an active feat. It could even be a long use active feat. Like you turn it on and it lasts a while. I think that'd be fine. There's one more that I was thinking of. Oh. I think Last Laugh should be an active instead of a passive feat. I think that you should be able to turn on your Last Laugh. I think that'd be a way better idea than what we have now, because there's also no way you can't outplay Last Laugh. There are so many moves in the game that are the correct punishes, what you should do, because you decided to pounce somebody on Centurion to finish them off, or do a hammer slam, or you got interrupted by a pikeman, or a bunch of things that normally happen. You die. That's it. There's no interaction. There's nothing. But if you see somebody light their bomb or whatever animation they want, then that's cool. It's like, oh, they're ready to die at me. Like, I either gotta play this a little bit smarter, I have to not engage with this, anything like that. There's an interaction. So those 2 in particular I would greatly want changed, and maybe they will. We don't know. All right, next question rolling in. If Warmonger has a very realistic armor set, will you try him or her? Probably not. Not only do I like none of the knights, even though I occasionally will play them for funsies, they're just all bash-centric except for Peacekeeper. And Gladiator's bash is kind of so-so, but his footstep is a little bit more annoying and his zone is there. So that's before anyone says that. But I don't really like any of the knights. They all feel way too... well, they're just too bashy. I don't like them. They don't feel fun to use. Even Centurion doesn't. It just kind of comes down to your punch mix-up. There's a couple of other things you can do, but they're not... it's kind of like a Warden scenario where, yeah, you could go for other mix-ups, but why would you? Your main mix-up's the best. But, back to Warmonger. Their armor isn't unrealistic. It's okay. It's better than Warden, per se. But there's a lot of issues I have with Warmonger. Not even dealing with the animation things. Like, things have to be cut. We're in a weird time right now with the Backstreet Boys reunion tour still going on. I say still like I'm not surprised. That's not the issue why I don't play them. One is because of their knights. I don't really like any of the knights. The other big one is that they don't use their sword right. And there are lots of ways to use swords. We have bodies and we have hands and arms that do all sorts of weird motions, and you can physically move them in any way. However, that's a two-handed sword. Two-handed swords can't be used one-handed. There are select scenarios if you're doing a thrust. Yeah, that doesn't require two hands. That's fine. But they don't. And there are no greatsword guards that use a one-handed stance. There just aren't. They're two-handed swords dedicated. And for Warmonger to use it one-handed is just dumb. There's no other character that uses weapons like that. Even Shigoki, who doesn't... like, he has a kind of fantasy-esque weapon. Kanabos weren't that big, they weren't that heavy. Still hits with two hands until he does the zone that's not feintable. Because he's just slinging it out, and it looks like he's slinging it out. It's really... I'm going to call it just... Warmonger is really dumb looking. The armor looks great, the style, it's awesome. The moveset, although really strong, sure, fucking, it's whatever. But when I saw a seasoned warrior holding a greatsword with one hand, that was dumb. It was so dumb. And I think if they gave her a different animation where she held it with both hands like you're supposed to, I think I'd like the hero a lot more and I'd probably play them. But it's just not right. It's not cool. It doesn't look good. Sorry, that's just not a thing. I want my hero to look like they know what to do with their weapon, and it looks like somebody gave her a greatsword and like, try this, and she's like, I saw Centurion use his one-handed. It's like, yeah, but he's got a one-handed sword. And to anyone who says like, well, it's a bastard sword or it's a long sword, it's like, those are both better two-handed swords than they are one-handed swords. And it's not a bastard sword because, albeit it's a modern term, bastard sword usually implies that it's bigger than an arming sword, like a one-handed sword, and smaller than a long sword. It's an in-between. Long swords, while they can be used one-handed, are primarily two-handed use of some sort. Furthermore, it's not because it's as tall as her, or close to it. Greatswords, so for something to be considered a greatsword, it goes from like feet up to kind of collarbone-esque. Warden's comes up to his nips, comes up to his pectoral muscles. So anything like above that, with like a big handle and those parrying hooks and this big complex guard, it's a greatsword. It's just a it's just a great sword. Oh man, if they don't fix those animations, I'm making a video about why this pisses me off, dedicated to it. It's just so unrealistic, it takes me out of it. It's so dumb. Another one rolls in. Are you saddened because we got no Wu Lin? Do you think the next area will be a Wu Lin? I don't. What I think would have made sense and what I would want is for them to add two Wu Lin to even out the whole faction situation. There are people that are like, I don't like the Wu Lin, and when you ask them, they're like, they're too loud, but then they don't even think about the fact that Blackbriar talks every time he bashes, every time he does anything. Conqueror talks all the time, Centurion is screaming all the time, Gladiator is always grunting. So and that's just the knights. The samurai pretty quiet. The Vikings, I mean, Highlander's hella vocal, but they don't have issues with him because of that. So I don't know why people don't like the Wulin. They're like, they're super dodgy. Like, it's weird because I see most of the knights using dodge attacks. Like, but they're really loud. Like, that's cool because a lot of other heroes are really loud. Like, but they have light attacks. Like, so do every other hero. So I think it comes down to some people just don't like the idea of the Wulin faction, whether it be intentionally out of like discrimination, or whether it's like more subconscious, where it's just like, oh, they're different. I don't know. I really don't. Maybe they're really upset. They're like, I want an Egyptian faction or whatever, and so they're just taking on the Wulin. The Wulin are fabulous heroes. They're all pretty balanced in like their all respective modes. I would say the weakest one is like Zhanhu, Nuxia, Shaolin, and that's most of it. None of them are overpowered. They're all unique, and they bring something new to the table. And if you don't want to play them, that's fine. But if you say, like, I don't want any more Wulin because I don't like the Wulin, that's not very fair. That's not a good positive stance to have. Because there are people who love the Wulin, and they're like the favorite faction. They're my favorite faction. I don't play hardly any of the Vikings, but I main a Viking. But I play way more Wulin. I have more reps in the Wulin than I do my Highlander. I have 103 reps in the Wulin. They're so cool, and they bring so many cool things to the table. So I would love more of that, because they're always balanced, except for JJ on release. But that was pretty messed up. But all of them, like, they do something neat and new and fresh. Yeah, I'm pretty like sad that they're not doing a Wulin, to even out the faction thing. The current situation is that we got a knight that's kind of like Warden, kind of like they're like a Warden. They bring some neat things to the table, but other than the animations can always be changed, so I'm not going to harp too much on that. They're reused. Aside from, I don't want to stick on the animations because it's such a temporary thing. It can be such a temporary thing. I just don't think the hero is a good idea. I know the direction we're going is towards feintable, chargeable bashes, because it's that provides excellent offense. I think they gave this hero way too much for what she is. I think she's definitely going to be an S tier hero, and it's a shame that it's another S tier in the Knights. Because outside the Knights, the only S tiers right now are Hitokiri and Warlord. And if you're like, nuh-uh, those two aren't S tier, that's not helping the point. It's not about them. It's that all the, like, 90% of the S tiers are in the Knights, so giving us another bash-centric hero with a lot of mix-up potential in the Knights, unless we get something really nice down the road for the other factions or reworking heroes, it just seems kind of favoritism. I don't like it. I don't like the hero. I'm probably not going to play him for a lot of reasons. That'll wrap up this Monday mailbox. If you want to have your question answered, you can either comment down below, or you can go into my Discord and put it in the Monday mailbox tab. Anyways, much love. Guard out. Hey everyone, thank you for watching. I invite you to join my Discord, links in the description. If you want to help support the channel, donation and Patreon links are down below. Much love, guard out.